Hello YouTube and Patreon, this is Nathan B. Butler, and this is our monthly update on various projects and whatnot for the month of May 2021. May notice something a little different with the background here. We will be getting to that and moving that out of the way in just a little bit as part of sort of the updating of some things going on around the office, basically here. First, let me thank all of you who are backers over on Patreon. That is, of course, where you can find some exclusive content, help support the endeavors of episodes like these, but also find yourself in the credits as a thank you for an episode like this. Get your name said aloud as part of the thank yous here, and of course get a thanks in the Patreon credits thanks page on all 3 volumes of the second edition of A Saga on Home Video. That is patreon.com/NathanPButler. There are 3 tiers over there. The first tier is the Travelers Through the Butlerverse, a $1 tier, the folks who get a thanks here and get a thanks in the book as sort of the primary means of thanking them for their $1 support over there. These include some new folks, actually. We have Tad, Kai Jacoby, Bon Linez, Travis Cook, Caleb Owens, Justin Richard, Preston Ellis, Jeremy Goss, Ben Abrams, Michael Torson, Jacob Kapoor, Tony Jenkins, Kevin Kreiner. Then we have Austin Pierce and SW Chris Walker. For some reason, when I see Kevin Kreiner, that time my brain went, the composer from Clone Wars? No, different guy. As far as I know, because it's spelled differently. Those folks, again, those are the folks that get those thanks here. If you want to add another sort of layer to the support, you can do the Denizens of the Butlerverse, which is the $5 tier, and those folks also get 2 audio commentaries at least per month, typically on the 1st and the 15th, right now for the Clone Wars, but also get access, for instance, to the 4 commentaries that I did for all 4 volumes of Forces of Destiny, and eventually once Clone Wars is done, for whatever comes next, probably Rebels. These include, again, also with some new folks here, we have Story Mode, Alexander Santos, Matt DeRochers, Daniel Marchant, Travis Taylor, Andrew Gilbertson, Walker Langstrat, Jeff Ellis, Joy Zitzman, Stephen Malicia, Robert Medina, Bobby Craig, Jeremiah Mustard, and Jason Hunt. And then beyond that, we also have the Nobility of the Butlerverse tier, I say as I am not quite surreptitiously switching between filters on Patreon to see the lists. These are the folks who get what the other 2 get, but also on top of that, also get that monthly Q&A episodes, an exclusive Q&A where basically they ask the questions, I answer the questions, usually kind of long form, a little more informally on a monthly basis, usually around the first week of a month, sometimes the second week, because we have had some recent ones where it was like, reacting to the first episode of The Bad Batch, which of course didn't air until May 4th, so I held the May one until after that could be seen, that sort of thing. But that top tier is known as the Nobility of the Butlerverse. So you had the $1 tier, the $5 tier, this is the $10 tier. We have Joe Belich, Connor Steierman, Jeff Rabjohns, Matthew Hardesty, Kyle Pellegrini, Innes, Jonathan Comfer, Sam Howard, Andrew Bettis, and Benjamin Handelman. So thank you to all of you from all 3 tiers, and just as a note here, I'm noticing more often lately people who are there listed under just like a first name, or maybe even listed under something that's not even their name, because I'm assuming story mode, it's not first name story, last name mode, it's just a screen name. At some point in the near future, and I'll let you know in one of these project updates, but at some point in the near future, I am going to have to pin down the exact wording of the list of Patreon credit thanks for A Saga on Home Video 2nd Edition. So if you are not listed under your first and last name, and you would like to be listed in the Patreon credits in the book by your first and last name, make sure you let me know that. Easiest way to do that is to shoot me a message through Patreon. That way I can sort of match up the name that you give me with the username under which you would be messaging me. Now we're going to get into all of the new releases and everything, but I did want to take a moment to talk about 2 things before we get into what has been released since the last of these project update episodes. First, it has been kind of a rough month for people in my particular little corner of the Star Wars fan community. I did not intend for these curtains being black to evoke anything for this part, but I suppose it kind of does. So I want to share some condolences for a moment. Barrett Lawton. Barrett is someone who I have worked with on Republic Forces Radio Network, Star Wars Reports Rebels Roundtable, back when we were both doing stuff for Star Wars Action News. Barrett lost his brother Chris recently. The fan community also lost a costumer, fellow fan, very active fan, and a man sort of connected to a lot of the podcasting groups, particularly well-known among the Star Wars Action News team, Dale Hopkins, who passed away recently. He's kind of known as a fan whose struggle with cancer had been highlighted a few times, and finally passed from it. Then over on the Star Wars Beyond the Films beat, right, the podcast that I used to be part of, Mark Herleman is still part of it. Jim Lahane stepped in and took my place whenever I left and retired from podcasting. Jim was in a car accident. Thankfully, he is okay. And Mark has been going through some health stuff where he's having to get a lot of testing done that may put him in the same boat for some health stuff as my wife has been for years now. So it's just been kind of a rough one, sort of this corner of fandom here. So I wanted to share some well wishes to everyone involved there, because it's not an easy time for everybody right now. Then I want to explain the second thing here before we get into new releases. What is up with the curtains and the color change back here? So you may recall, especially if you watched that tour of my office/collection a while back that I put up as one of those From the Star Wars Home Video Library intermission episodes, that the back here, when I'm not recording, has been kind of a mess for quite a while. I have a son. My son is now heading towards 3. He turns 3 in September, so he's not quite 3 yet, but he's past that 2.5 mark. And slowly but surely, I've had to keep my collection protected from him as he learned to crawl, then eventually toddle, walk, and now just run and climb all over everything. So what I had done initially, I had like some little baby gates that I laid out. Then it was some little project boards, and then eventually I went to an unraveled 6-segment plastic playpen. And at the time that I bought it, the only ones that were available were the ones like the one that I used just sort of regularly for him, which was this multicolored monstrosity visually. You know, cool for kids with all the different colors, but not so much for the adults in the room, right? So what you would find in that video is basically I took a 6-segment playpen, and it's kind of one that angles toward the wall in the corner. Then there's 3 that go across the front of my collection shelves. And then there's 2 other ones that come out. You can see this one here that come out from the wall, and then one goes back under my desk where it connects actually to another baby gate that I put under the desk against 2 parts of the desk that in the process allow me to block off a power strip for my work computer stuff that is right over here that you can't see, and to block off the electrical outlet, trash can, and stuff from him. But it was all that weird multicolor thing, and people kept asking me, why do you have a weird multicolor playpen in the background of all your YouTube videos? Like, well, it was to protect it, protect my child from stuff and the collection from the child. Very recently, I decided that what I needed to do was sort of improve the setup. Because what was typically happening when you weren't watching things here, when I wasn't recording, was we had the multicolor playpen, but then also behind it, up to about, I'd say about here, what I had was a set of 5 project boards. Those project boards that basically have like the middle section. Sorry, my chair doesn't want to roll with me. You got like the middle section and then the 2 wings that kind of fold out for those. Some giant ones of those, the biggest ones they make, turned on their side, completely folded out. And it was basically 2 back layer ones and then 3 front layer ones. So the back ones could go where the other ones came together to block him from getting into stuff by just reaching behind the boards or anything. And it worked well enough, but it looked ugly as hell. I mean, during the day when I wasn't recording, it looked ugly as hell, and actually going through and getting set up to record meant removing them and finding a place to put them every time. It was just a pain in the ass, really. And it worked, but a pain in the ass. So I decided to do recently was sort of change up the setup to make it easier to deal with. Something where I wasn't dealing with the boards constantly, something where it could handle a height greater than the project boards could handle, that got rid of the boards entirely and got rid of the garish colors of the previous playpen. So what I decided to do was get a room length or room width curtain rod, the kind of thing you would use for like a room separator curtain, and put it just a little bit above the top of my shelves and a little forward of the shelves so that I had a curtain rod running back here. And then what I got, because I wanted it to be something lightweight where he couldn't necessarily as easily pull it down, because it wouldn't be a lot of weight to go with it, so that the pressure from the tension-based rod would keep it in place. I got 2 plain black fabric shower curtain liners to basically set up here on either side, with a little board still back here, one of them in between in case he tries to reach behind it, but one of the black ones that had been the back layer before. And then that is now tucked in behind the Playpen, except the Playpen has been replaced. I was able to find that the company that made the multicolor one actually now has an updated version that is also available in gray, which actually has anchors to put in the walls if you want, but I decided not to do that because it works well enough the way that I've got it set up now with sort of the bins in it and everything. So no more colorful Playpen. Now it's gray, so it's going to look better in the background, less distracting, hopefully, in the background here. And when I'm not recording, a much, much easier to deal with background behind me. Which just, again, because it's curtains, just peels aside and opens, like so. See? Right? Peels open, then I just have the one board I gotta remove to be able to show everything instead of having 5 that overlap that was a pain to deal with. So let's get rid of that one too. And voila! Right? We are back to sort of the familiar background without the garishness of the colors of the old Playpen. So hopefully this will look a little bit better as we do these videos. It is definitely a much more manageable setup in sort of the sense of sort of tear down and set up as I go between stuff trying to record than the previous one was. And it'll be easier to deal with when I'm grabbing stuff off the shelves to do pictures for the book, because with my photo box taking up a big chunk of this room, usually it was a little tough to find an easy place to put those boards. In fact, most of the time I had to take them out in the hallway. So it just makes for a much more manageable setup here. And it really wasn't all that expensive. I probably spent maybe a couple hundred, maybe a little bit less, because I had to get the curtain rod, which is one of the more expensive parts of it, plus the new Playpen, also one of the more expensive parts, but then just, the curtains and the curtain hooks. Now, people have said, well, why didn't you get Star Wars curtains or shower curtains to use? And it had to be shower curtains because I needed the length to actually go from the top of the shelves all the way to the floor. Regular curtains weren't going to do it, or they'd be too heavy. I didn't find a lot where the images would fit together well. Like, I found like some kind of cool looking ones with like a stormtrooper face that was black, but then the other ones with it that I would put beside it in order to have the black meet some other black. The images didn't really match, the length didn't match, so I just said, screw it, I wanted to do it soon, went with the black ones. Okay, so all that being said, what has come out since the last of these update videos here? The last project update was for April, back on April 24th, so it's been about a month since then. I believe it's the 23rd of May as I'm recording this here. So we had on May 9th, we had the Nobility of the Butler Universe exclusive Q&A number 41. Yes, if you're a member of the Nobility of the Butler Universe on Patreon, that $10 tier, you get access not just to the new ones, but to all the previous ones. So now there are 41 of those videos up. And as far as commentaries go, we had basically the mall stuff. Right? So we had May 1st, the episode Brothers, the commentary for the episode Brothers from the Clone Wars, and then on May 15th, Revenge, which of course is Maul kind of back into battle as opposed to Spider-Maul like in Revenge, and going up against Obi-Wan with Asajj in the mix and all that kind of good stuff there. Sort of finishing out that season 4 of the Clone Wars. As far as what is coming up soon, on June 1st, we'll have the commentary for the first episode of the Onderon arc, A War on Two Fronts. Continue that with Front Runners on June 15th. On July 1st, The Soft War. On July 15th, finish up that arc with Tipping Points. Then we have the Young Jedi arc, picking up on August 1st with The Gathering. Then August 15th with A Test of Strength. September 1st, Bound for Rescue. September 15th, Unnecessary Bond. All of those have been recorded. They are ready to go. They are scheduled on Patreon. I have notes ready for the next arc, which is the god-awful D-Squad or Droid Squad arc with A Sunny Day in the Void in it, the episode that I loathe more than anything with the Clone Wars. Those notes are ready to go. I have not recorded those episodes yet, but I'll be recording those soon. Those will take us through the commentaries for October and November, and then get us into the Shadow Collective arc for December into January, and then the final arc for Season 5 will take us through February, March, and they'll be able to get into Season 6, Season 7, and, we're kind of getting to the point where the end of the Clone Wars is in sight. It's still many months from now, because it's 2 commentaries per month, so still many months from now. But it gets me thinking a little bit about, what comes next, which is probably going to be Rebels. I doubt it will be Bad Batch, because there won't be a lot of ability to kind of look back on Bad Batch at that point. It'll still be airing or only have just aired the first season. And of course, Patreon will also have the next exclusive Q&A for the Nobility of the Butler universe here in, a couple weeks, once we get into the beginnings of June. Then over on YouTube, that's where the vast majority of the stuff that I put together actually comes out, of course. We have some new episodes of From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I will note these are all the episodes so far that have been recorded. I do have a few things over on this shelf over here that I need to go through and actually investigate a little bit before recording about. I got a couple of laser discs sitting in the closet I need to look at. Like there's a French dubbed version, I think, of the special edition trilogy I need to look at, stuff like that. So I still have a few things to look at and then produce episodes on, but just by and large, the vast majority of stuff I've been intending to cover has been covered. I guess I also have some stuff from, I don't think I've covered them, some stuff from Sideshow Collectibles, some of their Star Wars related DVDs and whatnot to take a look at. But by and large, most of what I have to cover has been covered, so we may wind up getting into the territory of some of the weird offshoot stuff, like Thumb Wars and whatnot. Just oddball little items that some Star Wars fans put in their collections, including myself, even though honestly, sometimes I wonder why. So we'll see. But of the new episodes, we hit a milestone here. So we had episode 395, which is the UK Saga DVD pack compared to the US one. 396, which was the Australian Saga video pack compared to the US one. In both of those cases, if you're not familiar, the Saga whatever pack was the package of just Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones released in 2002, either in VHS or DVD, depending on format, which also made a difference in the name. 397 was a pretty long episode where we looked at all the individual volumes, 4 per season, of seasons 1 through 4 of the Clone Wars from Australia, and compared the first 2 seasons of those to the ones coming out of the UK. It seems to be, certainly would appear to be, that at least the first of those was based on the ones from Australia, though for all the other ones, they were all just based on the season sets that were already out, just sort of split into pieces. Then we had Intermission number 13.1, one of the few times we've ever had like a supplemental episode for an intermission episode, where we took a look at some 3D glasses from the Disney parks. I would clarify something on that I got wrong. The black set that are recent for Star Tours The Adventure Continues, those are indeed for Star Tours. The yellow ones are from the era of the original Star Tours, but the original Star Tours was not in 3D. I had forgotten that it wasn't. So those glasses are presumably probably from like Captain EO. So we still get to see the different eras of 3D glasses in episode Intermission 13.1. Just know that the glasses that were yellow wouldn't have been from Star Tours, but from the original Star Tours era. I didn't want to get rid of that episode or re-record it because it was kind of a goofy, fun little episode, and I wasn't sure if I could capture that again. Then we had episode 398, which took a look at a comic, Clone Wars Adventures Volume 1, that was apparently packaged in some club store's anti-theft packaging variant releases in 2005 with Clone Wars Volume 1, the 2D micro series. In episode 399, we took a look at all of the Complete the Saga toys that were used to promote the DVD release of Revenge of the Sith in 2005 at Burger King. By the way, ironically, when the time came for me to actually take pictures of the Darth Vader figure, then it worked. It didn't work when recording the episode, and then didn't work shortly thereafter again. But at least briefly, I got to hear the Vader breathing that didn't get captured when we did the episode here. And then, of course, we had the big one. Episode number 400 of From the Star Wars Home Video Library, in which we took a look at the special widescreen edition from the United States of A New Hope. We looked at the original version from CBS Fox, put out through Pioneer, pressed by Pioneer. We looked at the one from 92, that was 89, from 92 put out under Fox Video, pressed by Mitsubishi, and how that one actually didn't fix the aspect ratio issues, sometimes called the incredible shrinking aspect ratio, but it's not that the aspect ratio is shrinking, it's enlarging, it's the picture that's shrinking as the aspect ratio enlarges. We took a look at that one. That one was the one that didn't fix the issue. And we took a look at the Technodisc one, a more rare copy from, in my case, 94. It was released in 93, 94, when Technodisc did the pressings for the Fox Video version with much better color, fixed the aspect ratio issues, and how you can sort of tell them apart. We also, in that episode, which is why it is not monetized, so it's probably going to be a very watched episode, and yet I can't make any money off of it with advertising compared to any regular videos. But thankfully, it's not like YouTube is a big source of revenue for me, so it's not that big of a hit. I'm not like Angry Joe or something, where you get a lot of revenue because you got a ton of subscribers. Though almost 6,000 is pretty respectable for not promoting it very much, I suppose. In any event, that episode included actual shots where I went into my kitchen, where we have our Laserdisc player set up, with the iPad here, and recorded example footage from all 3 of those releases, plus a brief shot from one of the Japanese Special Collection releases to kind of see where that master came from, to make a note with little post-its on the screen of just how much the aspect ratio was changing throughout, and to make comparisons between discs. It's one of the more elaborate, perhaps the most elaborate episode I've ever done from the Star Wars Home Video Library, with the exception of when I did those visual video timelines where I would put products on a table and go year to year to year to year, which I don't expect to do anytime soon because, toddler and everything. But suffice to say, it was a big episode. We finally hit number 400 in the regular numbered episodes. We're probably nearing 500 if you start including all the supplemental episodes and the intermissions and all that kind of stuff. But kind of a milestone, but that was the last one recorded. It is now edited. It was released on May 4th. That was not my intention. My intention was, hey, this is a big topic. I'm coming up on episode 400. Let's just use it for episode 400. And then I realized as I was, editing 399 that if I just kept pushing and went ahead and edited 400 around the same time, I'd actually be able to get that out on May the 4th also, and managed to do so. But it certainly was not intended for May the 4th and episode 400 and the Technodisc thing to all kind of come together. That was sort of a happy accident, which worked out well. Before we leave YouTube, something else I tried to kind of get back into a little bit recently that seems to have gone well is a little bit of live streaming. For a long time there, I was doing a ton of live streaming of Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Battlefront 2. I did some live streaming also of LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens and so on. Only did a teeny tiny bit with Jedi Fallen Order. I think it was like 1 episode. It was after I'd already played through quite a bit of the game. I just enjoy doing the live streams because of the chat. Like, I can just screw around and not give a crap about what I'm doing when I'm playing the game. I enjoy engaging in the conversation. And on PlayStation 4, that's really easy to do. When I was using the original setup, we had a PlayStation 4 Pro, on an AT&T thing. It's called AT&T 75 broadband internet service, which meant that in order to play mini games and stream, I had to use an Ethernet cable because the wireless connection was not fast enough to not constantly screw up the stream or garble it and everything. But it's a nice setup where you got sort of the video window of the game. You can put a message underneath it, and then off to the side, you have a running kind of column that would have you as a picture of your video camera, like the camera footage of your face and everything, up at the top. It'll track the number of people watching. It'll track how long I think you've been watching. It'll track, I think, number of comments, and then have a running chat underneath it, where as people talk, it sort of moves its way up, right? So the setup is completely changed now on my end. We have a PlayStation 5 now. The story behind that I've told before. Basically, my wife was a nominee, along with some other folks, for an award through her work. Everybody who went to this special award dinner got entered into a raffle type thing. She won an Xbox Series X. A friend of hers won a PlayStation 5 disc-based version. We're more Sony. He's more Microsoft, so they swapped them, so we've got a PlayStation 5 disc version here. And recently, I decided to go ahead and pick up the Pulse 3D headset, because most of my gaming now is when my wife is trying to sleep. So I just put on the 3D headset, the Pulse 3D, whatever you call it, headset. And recently, in order to speed up things for my work and everything else, because I teach online entirely at this point, we switched our internet service from internet broadband 75 through AT&T to AT&T Fiber 1000, which is ridiculously much faster, a much better connection, like super, super fast. Like you sit back and run speedtest.net and you crack up seeing the speeds compared to anything you had before, at least in my experience, which made also for a better wireless connection. And I went ahead and picked up a PlayStation 5 camera. So, with a different system, a better internet connection, the new headphones that have 2 built-in microphones but no like arm for the microphone or anything, and the new camera, I set out to see how well the PlayStation 5 streaming would work if I didn't have to use an Ethernet cable. And it worked pretty well. No real Star Wars games to try, unless I go through and play Squadrons, and I'm having a real hard time getting into Squadrons. I restarted it after playing a chunk of it in VR, played a chunk of it normal on the PS5 now, and it's hard to get into that game for some reason for me. Even though the flying parts, the space missions, were my favorite part of the Battlefront 2 experience, for example. But anyway, so with that new setup, I tested out multiple times. I think it was on Friday, give or take, as of the time I'm recording this, and then sometimes on Friday night. So maybe it was Thursday and Friday night. But in any event, I tried a few. It took me 5 different streams to figure out the audio issues that I was having. PlayStation 5 has like 5 different spots. If you include the physical items like the controller and the headset, there are like 5 different layers of control over whether you are muted or not when doing a stream. And apparently I missed one the first several tries, and finally found it on my last try one night as I was getting frustrated. The irony being that I gave the name of the stream, which is gone now, I deleted all the test ones, at least the first test ones, was Testing PS5 Streaming with Returnal. And I think it was Joe Belich who hopped on and was like, test verified, it's streaming. So I thought he was responding to me saying in the stream how I'm trying to make sure the audio is working, right? Except he was responding to the title of the video that made it sound like I was just checking to see if it would stream at all. He couldn't hear a word I was saying, so I didn't realize at the time it wasn't working. Finally did get it worked out, and did 2 streams finally the other night when my son was asleep and my wife was actually away spending a night in a hotel after being exposed to COVID. She's vaccinated, but she got exposed. Her work said, you know what, we're going to do rapid tests on everybody anyway. We'll put you up in a hotel for the night, just to be on the safe side. But that gave me a chance from about 11 o'clock to 2:30 a.m. one morning, Eastern time, to do a pair of streams, one with Returnal, one with Immortals Phoenix Rising, just to kind of test it out. And it was cool to finally be back into having conversations with folks in the chat. But it's not an easy setup. It doesn't have the frame around it on PS5. I'm looking to see if there are any options to do that aside from having to jump to like Twitch or something if I were to stream somewhere. Because what'll happen is like the blurb of what somebody says will pop up on the bottom of the screen for a second, and it's got to be said in like less than a tweet, otherwise it's cut off. You only see a piece of what's being said, and then it's gone. There is no running tally up the side of the page, which made it a very difficult thing to try to do. But it was great. Had a chance to have some conversations here, so my thanks to those who participated in those. I know it was pretty late at night that night. I just wanted to test it out, give it a try. Hopefully I'll be able to do that sometime again in the near future, maybe when I have some breaks during the day, some dead times during the day like I used to, now that my son can probably play next to me, and not be on camera, of course, but play next to me while I'm doing that without it being a constant issue or distraction or whatever, as we ran into when I was doing that in some of those last streams before. So pretty cool. The YouTube channel may get some more streaming stuff coming soon, but I doubt it'll be Star Wars unless I jump into Squadrons and try to use that to force me to play through it, because there isn't a lot of Star Wars content out there right now to stream. I mean, I guess I could do some Republic Commando old school stuff, but what I'm playing primarily right now is tending to be Returnal, Resident Evil 8/Village, and Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is just kind of like Legend of Zelda if it had a sense of humor, but at the same time, I spend way too much time screwing around not doing the main story, so who knows how long it's going to take me to actually finish that one. Alright, so all that said, what about the book? Well, I did yet another printout of the book to do some more hand editing. This is what is left to hand edit at this point. But part of the purpose of this printout of hand editing is that I figured there'd be some chapters that might actually be ready to be considered locked, like done, with maybe the exception of like checking the page numbers or something like that. I have a few chapters now that are basically done at this point. The chapter on the Super 8 stuff and some of the really early, like the Super 8 reels, the Kenner movie viewer that also touches on the Mini Cinex, basically ready to go. Rebels chapter, basically ready to go. Resistance chapter, basically ready to go. I'm expecting by the time I get done with the weekend here, probably the Lego Star Wars chapter will be ready to go, and so on and so on and so on. So slowly but surely locking some stuff down. After I get done recording this, I do have some pictures to retake, pictures that I actually took the last time I had a chance to take pictures, but somehow the images came out almost like foggy looking, almost like there was smoke in the room in terms of how uncrisp the images look. So I'm going to try to fix that. Hopefully my photo box isn't starting to go bad or something with the lighting in it. But slowly but surely, we're getting some stuff locked down. Like the introduction is locked with the exception of just knowing how many pictures there are and what the date is to put on the little signature on it. The dedication page has been done for ages. Patreon credits and acknowledgments are just waiting for me to go through all my YouTube videos and Patreon and making sure everybody has gotten the acknowledgement and so on. So slowly but surely getting to that point where probably from here on, when I do hand edits beyond this round of hand editing, it'll be printing out individual chapters to check, not the whole thing. And that is a huge moment. Speaking of the book, though, I keep pointing at the screen and doing stuff at the screen. If only this was 3D, right? Although you'd probably be like, as I'm doing that kind of crap. I did run some numbers recently. So updated stats that were posted to my author Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Nathan P. Butler author, all as one word. Originally, back with the first edition of A Saga on Home Video, it was 285 pages total, and it had 323 pictures in it total, all of which were grayscale. To give you a sense of how much bigger the second edition, which is now 3 volumes, is, in terms of page counts, Volume 1 is currently 275 pages, only 10 pages shy of the total from the first edition just for Volume 1. Volume 2, 267 pages currently, so still just only a little bit shy of the length of the original first edition as a whole. Volume 3 is 321 pages right now. So Volume 3 of A Saga on Home Video second edition by itself is nearly 40 pages bigger than the original A Saga on Home Video as a whole. And this is without any of the chapters on the live action films at all. That's what Volume 3 is. Huge, huge stuff. In terms of the number of pictures, again, 323 pictures, all grayscale for the original A Saga on Home Video. Now everything is in color, and every single one of the volumes now has more pictures than the original book did as a whole. Volume 1 right now has 483 pictures, Volume 2 has 462, Volume 3 has 411. So, total page count so far for the second edition across the 3 volumes, 863 pages. Total number of pictures so far across all 3 volumes, 1,356. Yes, the new volume has over 1,000 more pictures across its 3 volumes total than the original first edition had total. And page count-wise, it's massive compared to the original. So, huge, huge work going into this. Huge additions, expansions, lots more pictures, all of it's in color. It's going to be, as Mark Herleman would put it, glorious. It's been a lot of work, and I'm looking forward to it finally being done. Looking at that, my guess would be that total pictures is probably going to round out somewhere probably around 1,400, maybe just shy of 1,400 total, because there's not a ton of pictures still to take or to replace. And then total pages, my guess is we're probably looking at, let's see, it'd be another 37 pages to hit 900. I don't think we're going to get 37 more pages of new content as I'm tweaking it here. So probably just shy of about 900 pages. So in general, we're looking at, just a massive, massive expansion here. And I appreciate your patience while I'm working on that, since I can't really announce a release date, not knowing how long it's going to take to finish up the work on it, to get it ready, to proof physical copies, to make the cover and everything. I'm still at this point planning 2021, right? Which gives me basically June through December to get this thing ready to go. I can't imagine it taking me longer than that. I'd love to get it done this summer. It's really going to depend on summer school. I don't get a break until the end of July. Our students finish on Tuesday, May 25th. Then I have to put in grades and wrap some stuff up on the 26th, which is the Wednesday. The 27th is a professional development day preparing for the new platform we're going to use next year. I am training new teachers on the 28th. Then we get Memorial Day weekend, come back, and we're doing all the training for teachers for the summer session that Tuesday. That Wednesday summer session starts, and summer session lasts 6 weeks. So my last day of teaching students for summer session will be July 14th, put in the grades, I guess, on the 15th. So I'll have maybe 2 weeks between summer session and pre-planning stuff for the new school year, in which to basically focus on anything but work stuff, really, without having to just kind of find the time along the way. I'll actually have some true free time, break time for about 2 weeks before we dive into a brand new school year. But it really does feel like progress is being made. Front-loading the Patreon commentaries, getting those recorded, getting the room set up a little bit differently here so it looks a little nicer, getting the live streaming stuff set up in case I have opportunities to do that again, getting the book to the point where it is now where I'm starting to lock down chapters or mark chapters is basically locked down except for, hey, find the number of pictures in this volume, hey, find a date for this, that kind of stuff. It really does feel as though a lot of stuff that's been building for a very long time is finally starting to reach their points of, if not ending, then a milestone point in the process. Same thing with From the Star Wars Home Video Library hitting episode 400 and me being down to just a handful of things where maybe I start bringing in more of those oddball things or have bigger gaps between episodes because there's just not a lot of stuff new that I have in my collection at this point beyond what's sitting there already ready to be researched to actually record about. We really are sort of at I feel like in my fandom cycle and the stuff that I'm dealing with, it's sort of a transition point, but not a transition point between, like, ending the Star Wars Timeline Gold, or similar to ending the Star Wars Timeline Gold, or ending podcasting, so much as a transition point in the sense that a lot of stuff is finally coming to fruition, which will allow, for instance, once, say, the book is done, starting on the work on the Excel file that catalogs the home video library that I'll make available on the website so that people can track their own collections and so forth as well. Pretty cool stuff at this point. I kind of feel like, it's busy times right now for work, but even with that, a lot of other stuff is inching its way towards pretty important milestones, which has been a heartening thing, quite frankly, at this point, especially with as rough as this last month has been for members of the community and sort of my little corner of fandom. So with that, we'll wrap up this project update. Thank you very much for your interest in the projects and for watching as long as you have here. Feel free to drop, questions and stuff in the comments. I enjoy interacting, of course, within the comments, and hopefully we'll be interacting more in the near future with some of those live streams. We'll just have to see. Probably more returnal, more than likely. So have a good and safe rest of May and beginning of June. I will catch you again in about a month as we start wrapping up June and looking back on its new releases. Thanks again.